Welcome to the Healing Center Conversations podcast, where we create space for conversations that heal. I'm your host, Dr. Byron McCullum, a nationally certified school psychologist. I, along with our special guests, will give you insight to promote collective healing by putting people first. Through weekly conversations with educators, psychologists, and healers, we'll discuss ways to heal, thrive, and live your best life. This is the Healing Center Conversations podcast. Welcome to the Healing Center Conversations podcast, and I have a super special guest in the virtual building with me today, a good friend. We've built up a solid relationship over time. It's been a few years now at this point. Dr. Chase McCullum. Chase, how are you?
I'm good, Byron. How are you?
I am doing okay, man. It's cool to have you. I know we just saw each other, I guess, a week ago, 2 weeks ago or so?
I think it was about a week ago.
Yep, and NAS.
Ran into each other.
Yeah, and you are doing just so many cool things, so many important things that are really helping so many people. And I just had to have you on just so we can talk about leadership. We could talk about school psychology. We could talk about some cool projects, some life-changing projects that you have coming up, really just discuss all the things. But before we jump into it, I always like to check in. And so, really, how are you? How have you been, man?
I'm actually great. This has been a good start to the year. I'm focusing on mind, body, and soul. So I'm eating healthier. I'm setting some clear boundaries. I'm engaging in self-care, being creative, we'll talk about, connecting with people. So it's been a really, really good time. So I'm having a great year, and I'm excited to be here today. I think this is a really cool experience and opportunity and a platform that you set up. So this is just kind of adding to my positive energy.
Yeah, for sure. And I love your focus on positive energy, because there's so many things going on in the world that can drain you and suck that energy. Was there anything to where you were like, you know what? I have to prioritize my well-being and protect my energy? Or is it just wisdom over the years?
I think it's been time, because I give a lot to a lot of things, and you give a lot to people and projects and church and different aspects of your life. And I just kind of found myself being overwhelmed by just doing a lot of good things. There weren't bad things, but I realized that I wasn't really prioritizing my health. And as school psychs and in my role, I talk about be well and being whole all the time. And I realized that I wasn't practicing what I was preaching as much. So I just made some choices and decided that I was going to take care of my body and take care of my mind and say no sometimes and say yes to some different things. And the more I'm doing it, the easier it's becoming. And I'm really enjoying it. So I think I'm moving into a different phase of existence.
Yeah, Chase, let's talk a little bit about how you even enter into this space, right? I want to say you're a school psychologist, but that's not the truth. You are so many things. I got to see a part of your session. I had to hop on a flight, but I saw part of your session at NAS. It was a featured session. And I went back, once I got home, I downloaded your handouts, and I'm looking through your leadership page. I forget the name. It was like a leadership, summary leadership page.
I did a profile.
Leadership profile.
Yeah.
Your leadership profile filled the whole page. You do so many things. But Chase, talk a little bit about how you got started in the field of school psychology.
All right. Now, my story is very different than other people's. So I never intended to be a school psychologist. I was going to be an attorney and live in New York and make all this money. And I decided to start volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. And we always did things for Black History programs. I like to talk about careers and future and just different opportunities for kids. So I was doing presentations at our Boys and Girls Club about just careers. And I asked the kids questions about what they wanted to be. And none of the kids really had responses. And these were kind of older kids. And I got kind of upset, and I was well, when I grew up, I was pretty much told and encouraged that I could be anything that I wanted to be. My family, my teachers, they pretty much told me I was smart, capable. You can do this if you want to do it. And once I saw that every kid didn't have that opportunity, especially kids that look like me, I felt like I needed to do something. So I wrote my congressman, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I said, we need to do something about this and encourage kids and make sure they have all these things. And I got a form letter back that says, good luck in your future endeavors with making that change. So I actually looked into a job that would allow me to encourage and support kids. And the job that came up was school psychology. I had no idea what it was, but I had a chance to really look more into it. And I decided in, I think my junior year, that I was going to change my major and pursue it. And I wanted to make sure that I was in a platform to allow every kid to feel loved and supported and encouraged. So I ended up going to Florida State, had a really great experience there, and then came back to Mississippi to work in a small district on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Did the school psych thing, but I believed in the practice model. So I wanted to not just do testing. I wanted to do counseling. I wanted to do behavioral supports, and the school district gave me an opportunity to do that. So I had a great experience there. I learned a lot, grew a lot, participated in several things, got involved in my state association, but I wanted to do more. And I ended up telling the district that I wanted to work with a particular population of kids. So I moved to an alternative school counselor and created programming at the alternative school. So I was basically the intervention. So we did counseling groups, we did character ed, we did work in the cafeteria about test skills. We did parent groups, all kinds of things. It was pretty much probably my favorite job that I've ever had. And then I wanted to take some time to finish my degree. So I took some time to consult for a while, and I did not finish my degree during that period. Then came back to the school system as a lead school psychologist, where I had a little bit more say in kind of some of the decisions that we made. Eventually worked my way up to assistant director of special education in that district. And I was actually able to create a department in my school district called whole child education. So I wanted to focus on, and not just special education, but I wanted to reach every kid and really to reframe MTSS, some of the things with social emotional learning, PBIS, into something that was digestible and combined all those things into a system together. So we created that. During COVID, the mental health piece of that exploded. So we were extremely busy, but it was probably one of the greatest things that I was able to do is to really support teachers as they supported students. So we sent out weekly emails, we connected with kids, we connected with parents, and talked a lot about mental health during that time. And the most recent job is as the director of special services for the Moss Point School District. That's where I'm currently. And basically, I'm over gifted special education 504. And I got the opportunity to bring a similar program to that district. That was a part of the deal. And we created the Be Well program, which is social emotional learning, mental health, positive behavioral supports, and kind of combining those things together in a way that supports teachers, kids, and families. So we put out weekly newsletters. I actually have a director or a supervisor of mental health in the district and social emotional learning in that department. We brought in outside mental health people to come in on a weekly basis to specialize in different areas. We're doing SEL stuff. And I also do my regular special education job. So we're having a really good time. It allows us to still do some of the things that initially got me into the field, because ultimately the goal of everything that I do is related to making kids feel a certain way. So whether that's supporting teachers and helping them support the kids to feel that way, whether it's working at the state association, whether it's doing some things for NASP, whether it's sitting in business meetings or IEP meetings or bringing in mental health people, it's all kind of related to the same thing.
Now, Chase, look, that more than covers it. Chase, you know, I thought I did a lot. And hearing everything that you've done up into this current point is ridiculous.
I hear that quite a bit.
It's ridiculous, Chase. Like, do you sleep? Like, people say that to me all the time, but like, what are you doing?
Well, I'm learning. That's what I said. I'm learning to do that. So I'm focusing on, now that we've kind of got a lot of systems in place, I'm learning to kind of take care of myself. My kids at the alternative school, and whenever I did counseling with kids, they're like, well, I know they don't use this term, but they're like, you're always doing the most, Dr. McCullum. And I was like, I know,
Yeah.
but we're gonna keep this going. So no, we're gonna dress up today and we're gonna learn about, test taking skills. So you just kind of get with the program. Mostly my kids always did it.
Yeah.
And my staff they enjoy it too. We're busy, but it's all in how you lead and how you encourage people and the vision that you set forward and that connection piece. So I think that's the main thing. You don't do this kind of work by yourself. I've always had people that supported me and who buy in, and we work together to try to make it happen.
Yeah. And Chase,
and I'm alive. They know I'm alive, but they support
and
it.
you know that, and they support it.
I'm very aware. Yeah,
I love it.
I'm aware, they're aware, and we're all on the same team, and we're happy together. I hope they all are, but I think they're
very cool. Now, Chase, you mentioned this idea of systems change. I want to talk about that for a little bit. I can't help but make the connection of what prompted you to reach out to your congressman. You were working with the Boys and Girls Club. You saw a need. You took action. That person responded. You took further action, which took time, right? We're not talking about, 5-minute decision or a day decision. It took time for you to study, to get the degree. You started practicing, and you still are noticing things where you can make a difference and have impact. And what I can't help but shake is you went from working with this group at the Boys and Girls Club to then influencing change at this system-wide level. Why do you think it's important, especially for school psychologists, to really not just look at the individual student level or that group level, but then having that impact at that systems level?
Well, I think I've always been a systems guy. So I believe if we really look at how you can make the biggest impact, it's impacting other people, impacting ideas and how decisions are made and how systems connect and work together. So as school psychs, I talk about leadership a lot with school psychs. And I think we have a very specific skill set that allows us to influence systems more than almost any other position within a school. We're database people. We're problem solvers. We have a knowledge of interventions. We have a knowledge of reading. We have a knowledge of just different types of behavioral supports. So we can do a lot to really impact and influence how people operate within a system. So one of the things that I saw as, I told you I went and got my doctorate degree. I ended up getting it in adult education because I wanted to really figure out how to positively impact adults within a school setting or any kind of business environment through learning. I think learning changes behavior, and creating systems that allow for learning allow for behavior to change. And again, that kind of goes back to that knowledge piece. We have a knowledge that we need to get out. We have information that we need to share, right? That's what we're always working to do, whether it's with special education, whether it's behavior, whether it's mental health. We're always trying to share information, but we have to understand that information operates within a system. And I definitely believe in direct services and supports, but often you really can't provide those supports on a higher level if you don't influence that system and create a system that allows you to work effectively. So a lot of people think that systems change, it's a monumental task, but it starts with going and being involved in something that you typically aren't involved in. It starts with maybe speaking at a parent night or maybe going to a committee meeting that you don't necessarily have to participate in, but it's an opportunity to discuss what you have to offer, discuss your services and discuss your supports. You also have an opportunity to connect with parents, all kinds of things. So it's small steps that lead to bigger changes. And I think that I would encourage any school psych to just kind of take those small steps and see themselves as leaders, because leadership means changing people's minds and helping move people or organizations from one place to another. And we can do that on a daily basis. So I like to think about our work is systems change slowly, but the more we improve our work and our practice, and the more we take certain types of opportunities to get a larger audience, the more we can change those systems and allow our our services to be better and better utilized.
Yeah. Now, Chase, I agree with that. It's important for school psychologists to see ourselves as leaders. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm interested to hear, what do you think was the most important or shocking thing that you found out in your adult education program?
Probably in that particular program, the amount that we focused a lot on human resource development, and I actually focused on learning transfer. So I'll probably say the thing that shocked me the most was that with all the professional development and learning that occurs in the workplace and in the school setting, the majority of that information is not actually transferred to the learner.
Wow.
It's not utilized. So we train, we do all this PD, but if you really look at how adult learning is supposed to occur, the way that we structure PD typically is not conducive to adult learning.
So why do we continue with the same old boring, ineffective PDs and trainings? Like why is that a thing?
I'm trying to figure that out. We try to work. We do PLCs in school systems, and that's kind of going in that direction, professional learning communities. But I think that people have been so used to a certain model. And the thing that I learned probably the most, and it's through my research, is that learning occurs through connection and relationship and being vulnerable. That was a big thing that I learned. I did my research on PLCs and how teachers learn. So you learn by adult education focuses on making sure that learning is meaningful. That's the big thing, that it's pertinent, that it's meaningful, that it's given to the learner in a way that's digestible and that they can utilize. But if that information or the learning is not able to be utilized or doesn't seem to be meaningful, you're just going to take it, you're going to sit there, and you're going to kind of just throw it out the window, because adults have a lot of other things to do. So they learn from experience and connection. So if you learn with somebody, if you learn by doing something, if you learn something over time that kind of builds on those skills and you can see how it actually applies to you and your work, then you'll be more likely to utilize it. But we're very accustomed to doing a one-shot PD that talks about something and introducing these concepts, and we don't really follow up on it. And that's when I think about even the things that we do now, I try to make them meaningful. I try to make them something that people can digest and something that we build on over time. So we reinforce the same topics, and we reinforce the same ideas over years sometimes, but it's a learning process. And I think, that was the thing that shocked me, that a lot of the stuff that we do is not actually creating positive change or helping anybody figure out anything.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think that point is really important, especially when we think of everything that's happening in education and in a time where we need to move the needle and improve the entire education system. You would think these trainings that we're asking people to sit in and participate in will really help us to move the needle. And speaking of moving the needle, you talked about leadership being a thing that can help move people from point A to point B, helping to share this vision. We actually met I forget how long ago that was. It had to be some years ago now at this point, but with it
was some years ago.
Yeah, through our work on the Leadership Development Committee. And so you are the co-chair with Harold. Shout out to Harold and the work that you both have done. I would just love for you to share a little bit about that work and just some of the dope things that you all are doing with that committee.
We've been doing a lot of work over the past couple of years we initially started with focusing on NASP leadership. So how do we support NASP leaders and state leaders with kind of understanding, how to lead, how to improve our practices, to kind of help advocate and to kind of, you said, move the needle on some of the bigger issues that are facing the field. And we do that through training new leaders, mentoring programs. We work with different committees to train new NASP leaders on practices and procedures and just basics of leadership. But what we moved into over the past couple of years, and Harold and I talked a lot about it, and we've talked about it as well, is that kind of moving that to the individual school psychologist. And we're really believing that you create change by empowering people, just like the session that we did at NASP. That was all about empowering school psychologists to recognize that the things they do on a regular basis, that is leadership, and you are making change. Even if you don't necessarily feel like it, if you're overwhelmed or if you're getting burnt out, seeing yourself as a leader and a change agent can make that happen. So we've actually done a lot more recently with some supports to states on individual leadership. We talk about soft skills. We talk about how to connect with other people, how to have courageous conversations and deal with difficult issues. And we've also recently, and I'm really excited about this, come out with our Leadership Institute. So that is for NASP members and pretty much any school psychologist or school leader. And I'll use leader again in a broad sense because everybody is a leader in my opinion, but we break down the different qualities and aspects of leadership. So we talk about ethics. We talk about seeing yourself as a leader. We talk about communication. We talk about just kind of how you actually change practices. And that's something that is actually going to be opening up in the next couple of months. And it's going to be available to we're opening it last year. I only had about 30 participants, but right now it's going to be open to anybody that wants to participate. So you can go to the NASP website. There'll be information out there. I'll be sharing some things about it as well. So that's really kind of expanding our reach to leaders. And we're also doing leadership collaborative interest group to kind of expand our reach as well. So anybody that's interested in leadership can participate in this interest group. We have a message board where you can share information about leadership, where you can talk about your ideas and share ideas and get ideas from other people. So we want to create a community for that. And we're also putting out regular leadership focused content to NASP leaders. So you'll get a news blast that talks about leadership connections. And we're actually updating our webpage to help people get access to NASP leadership. So if you're interested in joining some of the ranks of NASP leaders and figuring out how you can participate, we have a website that talks about opportunities that will allow you to get involved in the convention program, to review papers, to support by mentoring another school psychologist, or to get involved in different committees or as a delegate. So we're trying to put information out there in different places, understanding that everybody doesn't always feel connected and they don't always feel like a leader. We're trying to create resources and spaces that allow them to do that and to learn about leadership overall. So we're doing a lot with putting things out there, connecting with people, helping other people connect, and trying to improve our leadership pipeline. And we're also working with the EDI task force to really ingrain content related to equity, diversity, and inclusion into the training that we do. So we're doing a lot, and we have a lot of cool things like coming up, and we're really excited about that. So it's a lot of work, but it's really good work. And I think it's going to benefit the profession and benefit our national organization by focusing on that leadership piece.
Yeah. And I love the focus. I love the work coming out of the Leadership Development Committee. The work that you're leading is super necessary, super important, and helping school psychologists to actually view themselves as leaders, because I believe that we should be positioned as leaders, that we have so many skills and knowledge sets that we can really tap into and help move, students forward, educators as well. Man, Chase, I know that you have done so much inside the schools and all the positions that you've been in. I want to talk about any personal projects, or how do you tap into,
I'm excited.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Like, how do you tap into your zone of creativity and genius? Like, I'll just throw it on you, man. Whatever you want to talk about, man.
All right. Well, I actually have a lot to talk about with it because I'm actually figuring this part out. So I've spent a lot of time and energy on the things that I've talked about, and I'm still spending a lot of energy on that because I think it's important to support my kids and our students and families, and support school psychology as a whole on a national level. But over the years, you kind of learn things from working in different settings, and you kind of build up a knowledge base, you build up some experiences, and you build up, honestly, from the way that I approach things, you kind of build up almost a whole bag of tricks to make things work, right? So recently I've just kind of been talking about how to be more creative and to use my skills in a different way to kind of expand how I'm able to help other people. And I decided to really look at social emotional learning. That's the first thing we can talk about, social emotional learning for adults. I've been spending a lot of time really talking about how to support teachers and staff members, because what I hear is burnout. Everybody's stressed. Everybody's overwhelmed. Everybody's upset. So we're doing a lot to support our teachers, and we're doing some really cool things in our district. And I wanted to be able to share that with more people. So I actually have a project and a book that's coming out that's focusing on social emotional leadership. How you combine social emotional learning with leadership to create healthier and more whole educators, adults, that trickles down to students. And basically what that looks like is really breaking down the 5 components of social emotional learning into things that adults understand. Just like I talked about adult learning before, how do you teach this in a way that is applicable to individuals who are leading others, or individuals who are supporting others in different aspects? And there's research that shows that teachers, even who are exposed to SEL, improve in some mental health areas or emotional health areas. So that little bit of exposure can support teachers. What can really focusing on teaching educators and leaders about these skills in the context of leading do? So, like you said, I kind of tapped into something that's been on my mind for a long time. And I got really creative and just kind of put some things out there. We have pretty much almost like a workbook that introduces the different topics. It's a 30-day challenge. So it introduces 30 topics related to social emotional learning and leadership. And I like quotes. Anybody that follows me on social media or anything knows that I put those things out regularly to put positive energy out to people. So you don't see me posting or sharing things that are negative. I want to support you. I want to encourage you. So we start out with quotes. We talk about with some guiding questions, and I talk a little bit about what that particular area of social emotional learning is. And then we move into an activity. It's kind of the activities that almost similar to the activities that we do with students, but more focus on the adult learner. And we really just kind of worked with building leaders into being more healthy. And that comes from focusing on your social emotional skills. How do you build self-awareness? How do you connect with other people? How do you develop relationships? And how does that all lead to effective decision making, which people mostly think that decision making is what leadership is about. But there's several things that go into making decisions that support yourself, that support others, and support students. So that's actually out now. I'm really excited about that. It's on my website. And then I'm going to actually tie that to a course that I'm actually really excited about.
Let's talk about the course.
It's very like nature based. Yeah, it actually follows the 30-day challenge concept, but it's me and nature, and we're talking about social emotional learning. So it's kind of a theme of peace, of really reflection, and how do you as a leader, and you and I are both leaders, and we've had different capacities. You know how stressful that can be. And how sometimes you get, and you've seen other people as well, you kind of get lost in the weeds, and you may forget why you're actually doing the work. And the work is the most important thing. And that work is, and when we talk about leaders, and I talk about staff all the time, one thing that I always ask staff is, why did you get into whatever job that you got into? What is your story? What is your passion? And most of the time, teachers and school psychologists and leaders got into this business to support kids. There's a story behind what led them to do what they're doing. So if we can get back to that story, and that story is an emotional story. And we talk about, we've done research, and I always talk about the difference between quantitative and quantitative research. Quantitative research is good, but people really connect to the qualitative. They connect to the story. So if you go back to that and think about your own story, reflect on who you are, your values, reflect on how you connect with other people, reflect on how you develop relationships, some things that have worked and some things that haven't worked, some things that have worked with decision making, some things that have not worked with decision making. And going back to that, taking some time to reflect. And I wanted to do it in like kind of a 30-day format. So I'm going to do it in 2 different formats. You can either take kind of a 6-session course or do like the 30 days with me, and really just kind of go on that journey. As I've been writing it, I've learned a lot. I've reflected a lot. And the more I read it over and over again, it's really, really helping me to see leadership in a different way. and to make sure that I'm focusing on the main thing. And that's supporting, as a leader, that's supporting my staff and supporting my students, supporting my schools, and just making sure I'm doing everything that I need to do, that when I work with somebody and they go home, I want them to be happy. I want them to be healthy. I want them to feel safe in the environment they're in. And in education, I think that's going to be key, because a lot of educators don't necessarily feel that right now. So that's one of the reasons that prompted me to do the book and the course, is to really talk about sometimes the elephant in the room and why people are leaving the field and why people are stressed and burnt out. They're not getting often encouraged. They're not getting supported. And this type of content helps you go back to supporting other people. It helps you go back to connecting people and reflecting on how your actions impact others. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's actually kind of fun, and we're going to talk a lot more about it in the next couple of months and years as we kind of expand the concept, because I do think it's going to be very valuable to not just school settings, but pretty much any type of environment when you're dealing with people post-COVID.
The time is now for that. People are stressed out, are anxious, are depressed. And when they talk about those symptoms, they call it burnout, right? And that's what it looks like inside of a school or any organization when you have those symptoms. But most people will just say, I'm burnt out. And the resource that you're describing, I think, is going to be transformative and just help so many people. And especially because the intention behind it is coming from a pure source. And, you've put a lot into it. So people can find that on your website. We'll include the website in the show notes so people can access that. And will they be able to access the course directly from your website too?
Yeah, they'll be able to access that from the website also. So I'll have all that set up. You can just kind of go to it. And I have a couple other resources there as well that you can, that you'll be able to access. And hopefully the goal is it kind of goes back to that adult learning piece. I want to create things that will allow you to do your job and get information in a way that's easily accessible and digestible for you. So I think we need to move into that direction with almost all the things that we're doing, because there's so many meetings, there's so many initiatives, there's so many things that are happening, so many books to read, but having something that you can just kind of use that's really easy and practical. I want to create some things that allow teachers to improve their experience as educators.
Yeah, Chase, can you quickly share what was your creative process for writing the book, for coming up with the course? You mentioned going out in nature. Do you go for drives? Like, what's your creative process for coming up with content?
Well, I will say I have a lot going on in my brain at one time. So I have to, in all actuality, I have to be doing something else to write. So whether it's kind of working out or like in the car or talking to somebody, I have to kind of get those ideas when I'm doing some other things. So often I'll get the best ideas when I'm working out. When you think about that mind, body, spirit connection, I think that exercise kind of allows me for me personally, it allows me to be more creative. It allows me to really think about ideas and to not be as focused on some of the other things. Cause, we do have a lot going on. But when you're in that space, it allows you to do that. Or even like I said, as I'm driving and I'm thinking about how to improve systems or how to, what can I create to help my team members or help people on a larger scale. And I just have to make sure that I kind of write those types of things down. So I've learned that being active is the best way for me to be creative. So you'll see me on like the treadmill and I'm like typing and doing all kinds of things, but that's ideas just kind of flowing. And then I edit them and then try to make them into something that's manageable and, that people can really benefit from.
Very cool. And look, as we start to bring this episode to a close, I also know that you're a pretty adventurous guy and you like trying new things. I remember I think we were in Chicago and we were all together. We were like, where's Chase? Mm-hmm. He just went out on an adventure, wandering the city. Like, have you been on any adventures lately? Tried anything new?
Well, I'm all about doing the hiking thing. Kind of started with COVID because we really couldn't go out and do anything. So I've learned to value and appreciate nature a lot more. But actually, in Boston, it was kind of funny. I ended up staying a little bit longer because I was gonna hang out with a buddy there. And I always stay like off site at these like random hotels. So I ended up staying at this like really cool hotel outside of Fenway Park that had like this whole like music and like you can get these like records in it and you can just kind of listen. It was really cool. And then I ended up just kind of staying another night at, I think it was like the Omni. It was like this haunted hotel. So I wanted to go, it's like famed haunted hotel in Boston. And they had, I don't know why I'm telling this story, but I'll share it. It's like where Charles Dickens stayed and where he like, whenever he was doing Christmas Carol, the first time the Christmas Carol was read. And apparently it's like this haunted hotel. And I decided I wanted to go there to get some, like, cause it had a lot of writers there. So I decided I wanted to get some like inspiration from some of the writers, from some of the, I know that's not even a thing, but I decided to kind of hang out there and just kind of feel inspired. And then we ended up going to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and just kind of spending that Sunday, just kind of hanging out and just kind of taking some interesting pictures of some fine art from back in the day. So that was my adventure in Boston. Right now, I'm really focusing on food. So I'm trying to get healthier. Yeah. So that's my big adventure right now. It's trying to get more like plant-based foods and learning about how to cook because I'm not a cook. So I'm learning how to like cook a food that like it's healthy and fuels my body and fuels my mind and some creativity. So that's kind of where I'm at now. It's not as exciting as it's been back in the day, but I'm all about nature. I want to get one of those little bitty campers, those like 12-foot campers, and just start driving around the country in it.
Nice. We'll I could see it. And at the time of this recording, you're on spring break. So, you have a few, or I don't know if it's spring break or it's the start of Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
I'm Mardi Gras break. Yeah.
Mardi Gras break. Yeah. So, we still have a couple of days of that. Who knows where Chase might end up?
Yeah. You might see me. I'm going to get my little camper and hit the road. So it's all about peace. It's all about, I told you, like we started this out talking about like, you know, mind, body, spirit, soul, all that stuff. So I'm trying to find it. And nature really does that for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, man, any closing thoughts that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I just think this is an excellent platform. Thank you for inviting me, Byron. For school psychs specifically, I want to kind of go back to what we talked about in that NASP session and just remind everybody that we're hardworking, capable, intelligent, competent professionals in schools. It's a difficult job, but we impact kids more than probably we could ever imagine. So I want us to see ourselves as that. Educators in general, we make a huge difference in the lives of kids and families. So I just want to encourage people to recognize that, to celebrate it, to value it, and to know every day when you go into work that kids are learning from you and to see if you can find those positive things every day that you can get out of the work. You might have one kid that's difficult or acting up, but you probably have several other kids who are learning and engaged. And even that kid is getting something. The kid who's kind of acting up or having some difficulties is getting something out of the work that you're doing. So I just want to encourage people, be positive, avoid thoughts that will bring you down and ideas and people that will bring you down, pursue encouraging people, supportive people, and just go out there and make it happen.
Chase, man, you have given so much wisdom, so much value, and much needed insight, especially into leadership, but more importantly, finding our own peace, man. I really enjoyed this conversation. How can people find you on social media or get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can just search Chase McCullum on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And my website is chasemccullum.com. You can reach out to me there. I'm always trying to post positive things. I want to hear good news. So if you have something that you want to share it with me, and I'll try to I'll put it out there. The same thing that you're doing. Just kind of reach out and we'll make the world and our field and our systems better for our kids and our families.
Let's do it. Chase, man, it's been great knowing you and building a friendship over these years. You know, more than anything, it's not that many of us in school psychology, but you know, whether it's black, white, whatever, like you've just been a good friend, a good person to talk to, a good person to, you know, just pick your brain. So that's been very cool for me to have in, you know, selfishly within this association.
I feel the same way. I mean, I'm inspired by you all the time. We talked about you never know how somebody can inspire you in a different way. So I definitely appreciate what you're doing and how you've inspired me also. So those connections and relationships are what keep us going. And I definitely appreciate ours.
Absolutely, man. Look, I got to work on my leadership profile. Your leadership profile is immaculate.
Do it.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, thanks once again to our listeners. Thanks for tuning in to the Healing Center Conversations podcast. Until next time, take care, everyone.